Hey everyone, and welcome to Hooked on Needles and Crafts. Today we're going to be doing another itty bitty knit kit from Five Below. For my returning subscribers, thank you so much for tuning in, and for my new viewers, please consider subscribing, share, hit that like button, leave a comment below, and click on that notification bell for future videos. So today, you guys, we're doing another itty bitty knit kit. This was a viewer request. If you have any requests, leave a comment below. If you don't want to wait for me to find the kit, you can always take clear images and send them to me via email. That information is in the description box below, along with my about section on my channel. So let's get into this. We're going to be doing Mocha Latte today. In this kit, we're going to have some stuffing, some knitting needles, a sewing needle, plastic, some felt stickers, pipe cleaners, and a couple of spools of yarn. So this video is a supplement to this kit. If you want to make this kit, I highly recommend that you get this kit either on their website or at a local Five Below. I am not going to show the instructions or go over every single little thing. I'm only going to teach you how to do the knit stitch, because that is the only stitch that they end up using in this kit. You can end up using it for anything else in the future, like scarves, table runners, pot holders, stuff like that. But let's empty out these contents. So in here you're going to find the stuffing, knitting needles, pipe cleaners, felt stickers, and the knitting needle. Alright, so just so we don't get the stuffing dirty, I am going to just pack this back into the pouch along with the pipe cleaners and felt sticker. And then just so we don't lose it, I am going to put back the sewing needle. Alright, so let's get straight into this. I have, the instructions are pretty good. There's illustrations as well as written instructions. So if you have the visual learners versus just the textual learners. And then also in this instructional booklet, what's great about it is it comes with its own built-in ruler, so you can use that to measure out the tail. So in this kit, we're going to end up making 4 rectangles. There's going to be some color changes on the first one, so I'll show you how to do that as well. But let's get into the spools. So let me see. I want to see what color it's going to make us start with first. Okay, so we're going to do brown first. And then we're going to transition into, what are they calling it? The cream color. So let's unravel this. Not a fan of how these were put together. I like those big spools that they have with the little paper bands. This is just going to be a little messy. You can always unravel it and roll it into a ball, or put it in a tool that kind of helps you feed the yarn easy so it's not rolling around everywhere. But I'm just going to work with how it is. Alright, so off camera, I'm going to measure out the tail. So there's a length of tail that you need before you start casting on stitches. So let me just do that off camera. Oh, this isn't going to be fun. Alright, so I am pinching the length of the tail that it's asking for, that we have here. You want to take your tail and you want to keep it down out of the way so you don't mix it up with the feeder yarn. The feeder yarn we're going to want to keep up and out of the way of the tail so you don't confuse the two. So just to let you know, there's a gear button in the corner of the screen. You can click on that and there's playback options to go fast or slow. So if you need to slow down the video, you can do it that way. Also, if you don't need to hear me talk, you could always lower the volume on your device and then click on the CC closed caption button. Alright, so let's get started. We're going to have to do this first stitch with a slip knot. So hold this down very tightly. We're going to take our middle and ring finger and you're going to hold it apart like this. You're going to take your two fingers and we're going to lift it up right here. We're going to turn it down to create a large loop. Then with your index and middle finger, we're going to grab onto this feeder yarn and you're going to pull it through that large loop, creating a huge knot. So to tighten this knot, we're going to pull on this top side here. We're not going to pull down here where it's connected to the feeder yarn. And then as we're pulling, we're going to push this knot as close as we can get to your left thumb. So let's do that now. So again, just pull that top part. Don't pull the feeder yarn part. We're going to try to push this knot towards the thumb as close as we can get it to eliminate the amount of waste that we're making with tightening this knot. So I have a little bit of space here, but that's not too bad. What I'm going to do now is take the tail and just pull it a little bit tighter to make that knot snug. You don't have to pull too tight, but now we're left with a huge loop. So to make this loop more manageable, we're going to take our feeder yarn and we're going to slowly pull it. And you want to make that loop the size to where it can fit 2 knitting needles. And once you get it down to size, then you can just slip your knitting needles in there. If the loop is too loose, you can go ahead and pull that feeder yarn again till it's snug around those needles. And then we're going to start casting on stitches. So let's talk about that. I'm going to gather up some yarn here. And I normally like to grab a lot of yarn, but for this bit, I'm just going to grab a little bit. I don't want to sit here waiting for me to do this for a long time. We'll do that after I show you 3 times how to do how to cast on stitches. So what you want to do is get into your knit stitch position. What that is crossing your needles to make an X, but you want your right needle to be on the bottom, left needle to be on top. So make your X. What we're going to do now is make sure that our feeder yarn is towards the back. You don't want it to be in the front, and you don't want these needles to be backwards. You want to keep that right needle in the bottom, left needle on top. Right, so I'm going to take this feeder yarn and we're going to wrap it around the right needle. We're going to go back to forward and then we're going to bring it down. Alright, so in this position now, one tip that I have to tell you is right now the needles aren't touching. You can tell because this feeder yarn is floating in the wind in between these 2 needles. What you want to do is make sure that you're always touching your needles. You need that contact. So if you can see, there's a small surface that's touching the needle. You want to keep that contact no matter what happens, because now you're not going to lose your feeder yarn in between that connection. So we have our feeder yarn in this little crevice now that it's creating. To continue doing this cast on, what you want to do is slide your left needle down the right needle and down its back, maintaining contact always. So what this is going to do, it's going to force the feeder yarn through this loop using the right needle. So let's slide down the left, down the right needle, and then down its back. As you can see now, that right needle is forcing the feeder yarn through the loop, creating a new stitch. So now you have a new stitch on the right needle and the old stitch on the left. To cast on stitches, we're basically throwing new stitches onto the left needle. So to do that, you want to take your left needle and poke it through that new stitch. We're going to lift it up off the right needle and it's going to stay on the left needle. So now we have 2 stitches on our left needle. Let's do this again. Stick your right needle into this stitch right here. We're going to get into our knit stitch position, which is right needle at the bottom, left needle on top, feeder yarn in the back. Maintain contact always. I'm going to wrap the feeder yarn around the right needle, going from back to forward, and we're going to go down. You're going to feel or hear it snap. Okay, it gets into that little crevice. It's always touching, so you're not going to lose that feeder yarn in that space. We're going to slide the left needle down the right needle and down its back, and then that's going to force the feeder yarn through the loop, creating a new stitch. So now you have a new stitch on the right needle, the existing 2 stitches on the left needle. We're going to transfer the right stitch over to the left by taking our left needle and poking it through that new stitch, lifting it up off the right needle and staying on the left. So let's do this one more time, you guys. So stick your needle into this new stitch here, get into your knit stitch position, right needle on the bottom, left needle on top, feeder yarn in the back. Always maintain contact. So we're going to wrap the feeder yarn around the right needle, back to forward and down. You're going to feel or hear it snap. The feeder yarn gets stuck in this little crevice. We're going to slide the left needle down the right needle and down its back. That's going to force the feeder yarn through that loop, creating a new stitch. So now we have a new stitch on the left, existing stitches, new stitch on the right, existing stitches on the left. We're going to transfer the right stitch over to the left by taking the left needle, going through that new stitch, lifting it up and off the right needle, and now you have 4 stitches. Sorry guys, I'm naturally a lefty and I'm doing a righty video, so sometimes, you know, I kind of not accustomed to keep talking for right-handed people. So anyway, all right, so we should now have 4 stitches on our left needle. What we're going to do now, the instructions say the amount of stitches you need for this rectangle. So what we're going to do is finish off this row here with the number of stitches that it's asking for, and I'm going to do this in silence. I'm going to come back in and show you what to do next. Alright, so I finished removing all the stitches off of the left needle. They're now onto the right. So now what do we do? Because to start a row, you have to have stitches on the left. So we're going to take our left needle and we're just going to push it over to the right. Then we're going to take our right needle and we're just going to flip it over to our left. Like that. So poof, now we have stitches on the left needle. So, again, you just want to make sure that you straighten out your stitches into a straight line. You want it to grow down this way. And just to remember, when we started on the right side of our project, this tail was on the left. So if our tail's on the right, we're now looking on the wrong side. Just food for thought for later. But anyway, so what we're going to do now is pretty much the same thing that we've been doing this whole entire time. I'll do 3 with you, but from here on out, we're just going to repeat the same things that we've been doing. We want the rectangle to measure the amount of inches that the instructions say. It does tell you how many rows you can do, but because everyone is different and the size stitches will be different, you just want to make sure that the rectangle measures the same in inches, so that when we sew this together, we're working with the right proportions. So it could be plus or minus the rows that it mentions. You don't want to use that as Bible. Alright, so let's do our first 3 knit stitches. Okay, and then I'm going to do the rest on my own. So we are transitioning to the cream color. Now, it's going to be, I would prefer that they don't say the amount of rows, because again, for what I said, that this might be you know, different depending on the type of knitter. But what I'm gonna do is let's see, I would just use the ruler to help you. So if you know you have this amount of, you know, how many rows of cream, what you could do is count off the number of times we've gone back and forth, measure that with the ruler, and then try to apply it to the cream. So this is why I don't really like it. So maybe I'm gonna make this, hold on, let me just measure this real quick. The ruler has, you know, fractions of an inch here, so that must be there for a reason. I think the cream color should be the size of that first fraction on the ruler. So I'm going to do the brown to the size of the rectangle it's asking, minus that fraction. But I'm going to come back in and I'm going to show you how to transition the colors. Alright, so I finished the brown part, and then I'm going to do the cream next. I'm going to show you how to transition to that. So first thing we're going to do is create that slip knot. And I'll show you how to do that again. This time we're not working with a tail, so I'm just going to hold the end here with my ring, pinky, and thumb, and then I'm going to hold my other end with my index and middle finger. We're going to take our 2 fingers here and lift up, turn it down, and then I'm going to take my index and middle finger and grab that feeder yarn and pull it through the loop to create that huge knot. I'm going to push that knot towards the left thumb, at the same time pulling this top part here, not the feeder yarn at the bottom. And you just want to push it as far as you can towards that thumb. Whatever left here, you can just give it an extra little tug to make that knot nice and snug. And now we have a huge loop to work with, so go take your feeder yarn and just pull on that to make a more manageable size. You want to be able to fit a knitting needle in here. Right, so what we're going to do now is you're going to stick your needle into the stitch, get into your knit stitch position. Now instead of wrapping with the brown, we're going to slip the white on, and we're going to use that to slip through. So let's do a knit stitch using the cream colored yarn by just pulling that through the loop like that. So now we have this transition. So we're not going to go back to brown. So I'm going to cut the brown about 1 inch or so. And I'm just going to tie it together with this cream colored yarn. And you want to tie it not too tightly, just enough to secure the 2 colors. And I'm going to double knot it to make sure that it doesn't, you know, unravel in some way. The struggle is real with these nails. For whatever channel this video ends up on, if it ends up on my craft channel, I do have a nail channel, which is why I have these nails on. But anyway, okay, so I tied it twice. Now we can just work with this cream color. So we're going to go about it the same way that we've been doing, making our knit stitches. And those ends at the end there, when we sew this rectangle together, we're just going to use, we're going to be able to move those end pieces out of the way so that they don't show at the end product. So we'll get more into that when we get to that point. But I'm just going to complete this row and show you the transition. Alright. So this side here is nice and clean. This side has that brown band with a little bit of cream at the bottom. So just showing you how it's working. Not so Alright, well, I'm going to continue doing the rest in silence, and then I'll pop back in to show you how to cast off. Alright, so I'm almost to the size that I need. We're going to cast off now, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So to cast off, we have to do 2 knit stitches. So let's do that now. Alright, so from here, we're going to leapfrog this stitch over this one, and we're going to remove it off the right needle and then off the left needle. So pick up this stitch with the left needle, leapfrog it over this stitch. You can use your thumb to hold that stitch back. You don't want to lose it, but this one we want to pull off the right needle and then off the left needle. So we just lost a stitch. Now what you want to do is always keep 2 stitches on your right needle to cast off. So we're going to have to knit another stitch, and once again we have 2 stitches on here. So you're going to lift this stitch and we're going to leapfrog it off the next one. You can hold down that stitch with your thumb. You can pull it off the right needle and then off the left needle. So now we have, we're back to square one. So we'll have to knit another stitch. So the last time, you guys, knit a stitch. You'll have 2 stitches on your needle. We're going to pick this up with our left, leapfrog it over this stitch. You can use your thumb to hold that one back, but we're going to pull this one off the right needle and off the left needle. So we're going to just continue doing this down the line until there's no more stitches on the left needle. What you're going to be left with is the last stitch on the right, and then I'm going to come back in and show you how to fix that. Alright, so I've gotten rid of all the stitches off the left needle. We're left with that last stitch on the right. So we are going to finish this off by cutting about 1 inch or so off of the cream yarn. And then I'm going to yarn over the right needle by just wrapping the feeder yarn over the needle. And then we're going to leapfrog this last stitch over that yarn over, off the right needle, off the left needle like we've done before. But this time we're going to take the right needle and we're just going to pull out that feeder yarn all the way out. You're going to pull on this end to tighten up that loop, and then we've completed our rectangle. So you can set this aside. And we have 3 more rectangles to make. So I'm going to do one more rectangle because it's a solid color and we don't need, it's different from this one. And then the other 2 I'm going to do off camera because by this point you should be able to create the other 2 on your own, or rewind the video and do that. And then I'll come back in to show you how to cast off again. Or maybe I don't need to. Kind of showed you how to cast off here. I'm going to come back in and show you how to cast off the second rectangle. And then after that, when I complete the other 2 off camera, we'll come back in and we'll sew it together. Alright, so I measured out the tail for the next rectangle. Again, we're going to try to keep this down and the feeder yarn up. Then I'm going to cast on with the slip knot. So keep this tight. You want to take your middle and ring and hold the yarn apart. Take your 2 fingers, lift it up, turn it down, and then with your index and middle finger, grab the feeder yarn and pull it through that loop, creating a huge knot. Then I'm going to push the knot towards the left thumb. Okay, and then once that is done, you can take the tail and pull it out this way just to make the knot nice and snug. And now we have a huge loop we have to deal with. So we're going to take the feeder yarn and pull it to a more manageable size, enough to fit 2 needles, knitting needles in here. And then put your knitting needles in, and you can tighten up that loop by pulling on the feeder yarn. Alright, so we are going to be doing the number of stitches required for this rectangle. Alright, since we've already gone over how to cast on stitches, let's do that now. I'm just going to briefly go over the steps so that you know what to do next. Like a little quick refresher. Okay. So from here, we're going to start doing our knit stitches. And again, the number of stitches you start on your left needle, you want to end up on your right, the same number. So as you gain a stitch on the right needle, you lose a stitch on the left needle. And then once we complete this row, we have to start another one. So we're just going to switch needles, flip this one over, make sure that you have all this project grow downward and it's all in a straight row. You don't want to turn this one stitch into now what looks like a 2 stitch because we're holding our feeder yarn up and back. We want to make sure we hold it down and back. And then you can tell by the straight line of your project growing. Alright, so then now we just complete the same knit stitches for this row. And then after I complete this, what you want to do is to complete the size of the rectangle that the instructions say using the ruler that they've provided. And then I'm going to come back in and just quickly go over how to cast off the stitches. And then I'm going to do the other 2 rectangles off camera. So let's do the rest in silence. Alright, so I made it the size that it needs to be, and now I just need to cast off. So remember, when you're casting off, you need to have 2 stitches on the right needle so that you can leapfrog one over the other. And you're just going to repeat this until you go down the row. Right, and then when you get to your last stitch, we're just gonna have to cut the feeder yarn.
Lost a lot of footage, but it's okay. Stay tuned for the.
Then we're gonna yarn over,
like, comment, share, subscribe,
leapfrog this stitch
so you'll be notified
over
all videos.
the yarn over, off the right, off the left. Then we're going to pull the right needle for the feeder yarn to go all the way through. And then we finish this. So now that we have made a color change rectangle and a solid color rectangle, I'm just going to go off camera and complete the last 2 rectangles, and then we're going to come back and we're going to sew this all together. Alright, so I've completed all the rectangles. We are now going to sew this together. So I'm going to go into my packet, get that plastic needle out. We're going to start with the large rectangle. I'm going to use the brown tail that we started with and feed that into the eyelet of the needle. And I'm not a sewer, so bear with me. You're going to take the prettier side and we're going to fold it in. Again, with those excess pieces, you can just keep them out, because when we flip it inside out, they'll be tucked away in the wrong side. So, alright, so I'm going to go up and down with this. So let's go in this corner here, and we can space them out a little wider because we are going to go back down. I just want to make sure that, like, I get these all nice and lined up. And then they actually have us sewing into the cream color for a bit. So I don't know if that's going to show. I don't like doing that. I like to keep the colors the same. But we're just doing what the instructions tell us to do. Okay, then we're going to go back down, and you want to split up the spacing on here so that you get every bit of the side. Okay, and then once we're back down to where we started, we're then going to sew the square to this. Now, I normally have a cylinder. If you have a cylinder that's sized right, then use it. I'm gonna use it like this, and then place the prettier side inside and the not so prettier side on the outside, and then we're just going to sew this together. If you have that cylinder, that's great. Go around the circumference of this cylinder. Okay, then I'm just going to tie these two together. Okay, slipping this off my cylinder here. Then we're going to flip this inside out. If you really wanted this to be flat, you can cut like a piece of cardboard in a circle and stick it all the way in the bottom. Alright, so now we're going to stuff this a little bit. And it looks like this is one continuing stuffing kind of thing. So I'm going to take a little bit of this. There's another half in here. I'm just going to stuff it slowly so that I don't have it in the way while I'm sewing the other pieces together. But we're going to sew this larger rectangular piece, and we have to sew one side to the lip of this right here. Okay, so, and then you're going to want the prettier side on the outside. I'm going to stagger where this fold is so that we just mix it up. I mean, I guess if you wanted to keep this all in one, let's keep it all in one way. Actually, just so that we can hide the seam and put our face on this side. So I'm going to sew this around. We're going to be tucking the excess pieces inside the project there. Right? And then we're just going to have to stretch some of this stitching because I just don't think it's going to line up a bit, or maybe it will because there's actually more. No, it won't. What am I talking about? So try to stretch out your stitches. Once we've gotten back around, we're going to sew the sides together. Right? And then I'm gonna, just stick with this and sew this other piece, but while I'm at it, I'm just gonna add a little bit more stuffing. Shove that in there. Okay. So I'm going to use this long piece to seal it. So we're going to sew this. Tuck this excess piece inside. Okay, and once I'm back around, I'm just going to sew the sides together. Okay, and once I'm here, I'm just going to tie a double knot. And then tuck that into the project. I'm going to add the last bits of stuffing. Okay, and then what we're going to do is weave this last bit. In and out of these stitches. And once we've gotten all the way around, we're just going to pull it closed. All right, and then we can find a spot to tie our knot. And once we've knotted that up, I'm just going to go back into the project right next to where it comes up, come out from the opposite end anywhere randomly, pull this out. We're going to cut the surface. We're going to cut flush to the surface. And then you can just squeeze the project to make that little end disappear. Redistribute your stuffing to where you want it to go. And so now That's funny. Oh, okay. We have to stick on the eyes and the mouth. So again, since we kept the seam here, you can choose to just do the other side for the face. I'm going to get the mouth first. It's going to go right here. You want to push down so that the adhesive sticks to as much yarn as possible. You can try to sew embroidery thread or some sewing thread around the edges to make sure it stays on there. And then I'm going to grab the eyes. Okay, stick these on. Do the same thing, hold it for a few seconds. If it helps, you can use the photo. You can kind of make the eyelashes undulate with the mouth and try to keep it even on the other side. I have a hard time making things nice and even, so I try to do little tricks like that. And then after this, we're going to put on the sprinkles. And there's a bunch on here, so we're going to be here for a while. And just making sure, depending on how you want it, I like to have it decorated all the way around. Some people just want to decorate what you see in the front. think there's like 3 more of these. I mean, I guess you don't have to use all of them, but might as well because it came with it. All right, last one. Okay, so now we have to stick on the straw. So what we're going to do is, let's unfold one spot here. And we're going to twist these together. You can fold up both the ends too, like they had, just so that when we stick it in, it doesn't get caught. Okay, then stick this in. You can put it off to the side. I just put it in the center. Try to have it go into that stuffing. It might be hard to do, actually. They really should tell you to put this in while you're stuffing so you can stuff around it. But I'm just going to try my best. It's already curling in there. The stuffing is just too, you know. And then you can hook your little straw. But that's it, you guys. We have completed our little mocha latte. All right. So here we are. Let me know how it went. But yeah, so we have 2 more knit kits to do for now. I'm gonna do a crochet Halloween one from Five Below that was requested, and then I gotta do about you know, a couple of Dollar Tree kits. So that's pretty much the schedule for right now. And then after that, I do have the Wicked ones that was requested as well. So there you have it, you guys. I wanted to just quickly mention that on my original channel, I'll leave the link in the description box below. I am hosting a special NFL giveaway. It's 18 weeks. We are now in week, I think we're going to be, we just did week 10. So that means there's 8 more weeks left for you to go watch that NFL video, vote to see which team is going to win. The person that makes the most correct picks will win the giveaway. I'm gonna have 2 winners. I'm gonna have a nail winner and then a craft winner. So that's you guys. The craft winner is gonna get a bunch of goodies on top of a gift card, as well as a 1-hour StreamYard session, something like this where you can show me your projects and I can help you out step by step. Or if you just want to learn how to knit or crochet, I find that that's easier than sometimes watching a video if you just have someone talk you through it. Or if you are inspired to start your own channel or currently have one and need some advice, we can talk about that as well. At any rate, thank you so much, you guys. This is Hooked on Needles and Crafts. Please share, like, and subscribe for future videos, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks. Bye.